Did you see Captain Marvel?
Yes.
Did you like it?
For the most part, yes.
And what do you think about this version of the charter?
In terms of film, it worked very nicely. I thought Samuel Jackson was brilliantly portrayed his younger self.
Yeah.
I suppose we'll have to wait until the Avengers movie next month to find out how it all ends.
And have you seen the last trailer of Dark Phoenix?
No.
Have you? Have you?
I have had no contact with the film, no.
Nothing.
No.
So when the film will be out, you'll see the film like everyone else.
I suppose, yes.
Are you a little afraid of this news adaptation, or?
I think Simon Kinberg is a superb producer and writer. Yeah. This is his first time out as a director, so there is a tremendous amount of pressure on him. On the other hand, the same could be said about Bradley Cooper, and he's doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah.
So again, we'll know in June whether it's a success or a failure, but I guess the irony is he's already moving on to other projects, so we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
You know, Dark Phoenix seems to be a challenging story for studios to play with, and the fact that Marvel Studios is in transition from Fox, or I shouldn't say Marvel Studios,
Fox.
The X-Men Fantastic Four franchises are in a period of transition from being produced and distributed by Fox to being folded into the Disney Marvel cinema universe. So we'll see what happens, where it goes from here.
I was curious, from I think 2014 you have an exclusive contract with Marvel.
As a writer, yes.
Yes, but I haven't seen almost anything out.
That's not a question, that's a question you have to take up with Marvel.
So I saw that in the next month, I don't remember the date, there will be a new story by you on Nightcrawler for Marvel Presents.
There's one for Nightcrawler, there'll be one later this year that Salvatore La Rocca is drawing for involving, it's sort of a tag story to the Kitty Wolverine miniseries that I did with Alan Milgram some years ago. And there's a new project that I can't talk much about because it hasn't been officially released that will, I hope, make audiences go, holy cow, this is very cool.
I was curious. Now, what do you think about the recent, the present situation about the comic market in America? Because
I don't know, what is the present situation of the comic market?
Because before there were a lot of comics that were, I think, more inspiring to take and then inspire the movies and television and so on. Now it's the reverse. Is I see a lot of influence by the movie universe, the movie experience on comics. I don't know if it's just my impression.
I fear you have me at a disadvantage because I haven't been reading comics for a number of years now. I generally don't, unless I'm directly involved, and none of the projects I'm working on are related at all to the current existence, the current reality of the Marvel characters of the Marvel Universe. It's, I think, natural that the publishing tends to reflect what's on screen because what's on screen reaches out to a much larger audience than what's on the page. That said, I think a good story is a good story regardless of where it comes from. So each has to be judged on that from that perspective. And it's, if you'll pardon the expression, it's a crapshoot no matter what you do.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that you can produce a comic for maybe $20,000, whereas the last budget I heard for Dark Phoenix was north of 200 million.
Yeah.
So and the Avengers budget for the Thanos arc is about $1 billion, which is awesome.
And now there are a lot of issues that are linked with others, miniseries, events, and so on.
I'm afraid I come from a different age.
Yeah.
Where when I started, Stan Lee was running the company, and he had 3 simple rules. He wanted, if you were assigned to a book, you were obliged to get the book in on time, to do good work, and not be a pain in his ass. And as far as he was concerned, any 2 of those 3, you could keep your job. He'd like the 2 to be, do a good book and get it in on time, but he'll settle for not being a pain in the ass too. But the writers were free to do pretty much what they wanted, because Stan was too busy trying to keep the company from going out of business. So it was a much more freewheeling and exciting era. Occasionally you would have situations where writers may have gone in a wrong direction, but there was a quick correction for that. Over the years since, it's become more structuralized, which in some respects is very good. In some respects, depending on who you talk with, it's not so good. But the reality is, it's an ongoing process. You can't reverse that time.
Yeah.
The advantage I had in my first run on X-Men, or for the first half of that, was no one was interested in it, because it was characters that weren't part of the universe really, and it was a series that had never been successful. So nobody paid attention until they suddenly looked up and we were the best-selling comic in the industry. And even then, I'd been doing it so long and doing it so well that why screw up a good thing? But then over time, more people wanted to play with the X-Men, they wanted to guest star the X-Men in their stories, they wanted to fold the X-Men into the bigger tent of events. And you just can't hold back what editorial thinks is progress.
So you have people that are dead come back to life?
Well, that was a whole different thing. That was a fairly intense dispute between me and other creators, and Jim won. I mean, Jim made a choice. Jim Shooter, the editor-in-chief, which I passionately disagreed with it, but that was his job. You live with it, you go on. The thing now is that the structure of the company seems to be, everything has to fit together, everything has to cross over, everything has to be a big event. And it seems to work. But for me as a creator, it's not what I would do. It's not what I like to do.
So if you have free hands for a run about anything, what would you like?
If I want to do my own, well, if I want to do stories like that, I just don't do them in the United States. I try to do them over here with characters that I create. Because if I'm playing with Marvel's toys, I am obligated to play by Marvel's rules.
Yeah.
But if I take my own characters that I own, that I created, then I can do what I want with them. The trick, of course, as always, is finding an artist who will draw them, if it's comics, and more importantly, or as importantly, a publisher who will publish them. And the other half of the challenge is that while there are a great many readers in Europe who will happily buy Marvel stories told for an American audience in the American style about characters that they love over time, it's a lot more challenging to produce bande dessinée over here as a graphic novel, a graphic album, their readers are more comfortable, booksellers are more comfortable with stuff that they know.
Yeah.
And American visual storytelling style is significantly different from how bande dessinée are done. You know, here it's a lot. The focus of the camera is a lot more intimate. Whereas we tend to think, or I tend to think certainly, in terms of, I guess, 70 millimeter widescreen. If I have the opportunity to exploit a double spread with what I think is a brilliant visual and an artist who is capable of doing it, I'll do that. That's something you almost never see in France or in Italy. Everything there is, from my way of looking at things, much more centered around a single rostrum camera that closes in and will show you people up close. But for me, I like to vary between people up close and a wider dramatic perspective. I guess the difference between the Maltese Falcon and El Cid. You know, starting off with panoramic shots. This is rarely seen over here. Then you get a lot. You know, it's action panels. It's a lot happening. This, I think, these are the 4 pages that won Manara the job. Starting with Kitty falling, and then bouncing down the slope, falling off the cliff, catching Rogue, and then going off the edge, grabbing on, and then grabbing everybody else as they fall, and just getting saved in the last moment. As I said, I like panoramic vistas. Big. If you've got a double page, use the double page. Try and convey the sense of visuals with a really great picture, rather than a lot of little pictures.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's different.
But that doesn't always appeal to to a mass market audience.
Yeah, and the mass market is gone on waves. So.
Well, readers over here will accept it from like the X-Men because wow, we've been reading it for 2 generations, or the Fantastic Four, or Superman. But to suddenly get an original story that goes in that direction is like, oh, I don't know. On the other hand, it might be a crappy story, so there's always a different way of looking at it.